Hi, Pamela. Ilona? Hello. Hola, bonjour, buongiorno. Konnichiwa. 안녕하세요. Hola, hola, Angela, Isabel. Salut. Coucou. Hola, Jimena. Bonjour, Cécile. Hello, Pam. Okay. Oh, bonjour. J'aime bien Dubai. 안녕하세요. Hola, Laura. Bonjour, Francis. Bonjour de Londres. Manchester, Londres. Hola. Hi. Okay. Hello. We're going to get started here in just a second. Welcome, bienvenue, bienvenidos, buenas tardes. Just waiting for a few more people to come into the room. I hope everyone's well today. This is great to get to connect with so many language teachers from all over the world. Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. And let's see. All right, hopefully you can see my screen. Okay. So welcome to 5 more weeks of no and low prep fun. My name is Janina Klimas. I am American. I live in Cambridge. I've been teaching languages forever. And today, I just want to share with you some low and no prep activities that you can add to your language teaching repertoire. A couple of things before we get started, I want to say specifically about the activities. Many of the activities that I'm going to share with you here today can be done, adapted to any language and to any level. And there's a couple of ways you'll hear me refer to levels, and one will be the C, E, F, R, A, B, and C, as well as the ACTFL range. So novice, intermediate, and advanced. But in the interest of time, I can't, some of the activities I'll be able to talk about specifics of how to adapt these different activities to these different levels, but many I just won't. And just as a rule of thumb, though, that A and novice level, those are, you know, when our learners are starting from nothing and they're going to the end of that level and they're able to start, you know, words and phrases, and then they're moving into the intermediate or B level when they can start constructing their own sentences. And then of course that becomes stronger at that level. And then when they hit the C level, that's, or the actual advanced level, that's paragraph level discourse. So just a little bit about me. I've taught languages for a really long time and on 3 different continents, Europe, America, and Asia. And I have a BA in theater arts and in foreign languages and an MA in the teaching of languages. And you'll hear some of what I talk about the theater arts drama background with some of the one section of activities that we do. So I think the reality, as much as I love languages. When I was at school, I loved them. I didn't mind doing things like conjugating verbs and memorizing vocabulary, but I know that not everyone is like that. I know that teaching languages can take a lot of energy, and these activities are designed to just kind of be in your back pocket and work with whatever it is you're doing, whatever theme, whatever grammar point, and can be done with very little prep. The first couple of activities I want to talk about do require some tech access for both yourself and your students, but I I think that what we've just gone through, so many of us teaching remotely, teaching online, um, I these are activities that can be done in a live environment as well as remotely. Um, the language teachers are all over Quizlet, and if you're unfamiliar with Quizlet, they're really just sets, and they might be a set of French vocabulary, a set of Italian grammar, etc. And it's got all kinds of disciplines, all kinds of subjects, and it does flashcards and games. But I think the real power is in its live feature. So you'll go find a set. That's the only prep that you'll have to do, unless of course you want to make your own set, and you're welcome to do that. And it generates a code, and there's either a QR code or a numeric code. And as long as you have 4 students, it will make a live game. And students they can all play against each other. They'll randomly put them in teams, but it's a super low prep activity that will really help students master some difficult concepts. So Quizlet, but the live feature. Kahoot is very similar. And many people tell me they like Kahoot better. They think it's a little bit better developed, but honestly, I might agree with some of that, but really the language teachers have been all over Quizlet for a really long time. So there is a huge bank of content that's ready to go. You just have to kind of go through the set and see if it's appropriate, if it's what you want to use, and you can make your own if you can't. I think Kahoot is there's a little bit less for language teachers, but I just wanted to get those two out there, because I think that if you got 10 minutes and you have access to on internet online, this is really worth it. This next activity, it's a video that you can't see. It's really simply fly swatter. So any vocabulary that you have, you're going to want to get either the items or pictures. And you might want to even take a blank piece of paper, just like you see here, and hand them out to students, and they can actually draw the pictures. You might even want to print them out, and you just put them all in the center, and you say them and they touch the word. It's really just total physical response, and it's great fun. This works great in the novice level. This is a really perfect novice level activity. Whatever vocabulary you have, or even grammar, you can do. Have students take a piece of paper, put whatever it is you want on it, and then put them all in the center. And the more fly swatters you have, the more learning. With these same papers, you can play a game called Pass It, which is super fun. And basically, after they've heard the words a lot of times, which they've done, they've interacted with the language a lot of time, they then each pick one or two. And you can put target language music on, and they pass them around. And then when the music stops, they have to say the word. You could even do fun things like on those blank pieces of paper that we talked about, they can just write a question. And then if it's their turn, they have to answer the question. It's a great way to get a lot of target language directions, to the left, to the right, and a lot of interaction with vocabulary and a lot of talking. It's very active. They'll ask to play this a lot. Similar to what we were talking about, this is a little Kooch Ball. It may have another name in somewhere else in the world, but essentially it's something that's soft and that can be thrown, and that won't hurt anybody if you do. It's really easy. And you can use this to sort of jazz up any grammar activity, any book work. Maybe they spend a couple minutes on their own preparing something, and you toss the Kooch Ball around, or they toss it to each other. I ask you a question, you answer, you send it to somebody else, asking a question, then they answer, etc. You get the picture. It's just something that you have really easy to just pass around. It's really active. You can invent all kinds of games based around communicating with this Kooch Ball. And again, it's a great way to sort of jazz up your textbook. This next activity is called subtitles. And One, we have so much access to authentic target language videos right now. And one activity that a lot of American language teachers like to do is called movie talk. And so basically it's a short video of some kind. And of course, if you're working in the B level or C level, it would be longer chunks, etc. But taking a video and you scaffold it, you talk a lot about it, and you stop it a lot and you ask a lot of questions as you go, and you watch a short clip. For a novice level, it would be, a 2 or 3 minute clip lots and lots and lots of times. And then you would have students write what they think the subtitles on would be. You can even have them pick, okay, what are 6 things that you heard? So you're going from comprehensible input with lots of support, and you're bringing it to they're creating something with the language. You can do this with lots and lots of videos, any video with the sound off too, if you want to do that. It's really quite fun. They imagine what's happening and they write about it in the target language. And it's a great way to get culture in there. So I'm going to be doing one with, I'm a huge Almodovar fan, and I know that, it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for, I can't show the entire movie of many of his films to my students, but I can show them little clips or whatever, just so they know who that is. He's someone that they talk about a lot in Spanish. He's really fun, and it sparks a lot of conversation. So this is also a good activity. If you have something longer and you don't want to show them all of it, but you want them to be familiar culturally, you can do that. So another activity from drama, and you can use this lots of ways. This is just simply a storyboard. And there are a lot of free ones. I really love a website called freeology.org. And basically, you could do your subtitles on this, right? Where you could kind of just draw, what happened, and then they could talk about, they could write their subtitles underneath. But this is just a simple piece of paper, is super powerful. And you can do lots of things. So at the novice level, I might do exactly what we just talked about, subtitles, but you could also use this to draw some scenes. Let's say that you're starting the past tense, or any grammar and communicative topic that you're doing. They draw the scenes and then they write underneath what's happening. Another way to use this is with reading. And this is really great for when you're going into the intermediate, that B level. They read something and then they actually make a storyboard. They pick 6 scenes out of it. One thing I like to share with my students is that in France, it's my understanding that a lot of filmmakers will start with this storyboard, all the things visually that they want to see, and then they write the dialogue underneath. So they can then do that with a short story, a reading selection, and they can write out what happened. And the power isn't so much in them writing out what happened, it's about them constantly going back to the text and being really engaged in it, because they get so much grammar and vocabulary all in context, and then sort of either recapping, maybe this is a summary, maybe this is the 6 most important parts of a story, etc. Or they can use it to even make their own. Like I said, going to a restaurant, having to complain at a hotel, thinking about all the things that could happen. And they can even make their own video out of it. So they've decided what scenes they're going to shoot. And then they shoot those 6 scenes, they put them together, and they've got a video. And students tend to really enjoy doing that. Another way to really low prep that you can do with anything is a screenplay. And another little tip that I like to share with people is, on a screenplay, they're written so that 1 page equals 1 minute on the screen. And it's a certain kind of format that they use, which is very simple, but you don't have to even worry about that so much. It's Courier font, 12 point. And on Google Docs, there's loads of add-ins. So I really like to do this with those basic communicative tasks, right? Maybe they'll make a 2-minute screenplay of going to the airport, for example. You know, you think about all these different tasks that we have them do, and they can make their own little screenplay, and that can be the assignment. They could actually do it, read it out as sort of a reader's theater. They're really fun. And they can do it on a Google Docs with an add-on. It's completely for free. The next activity, I love shopping activities. And so if you have, there's lots of ways you can do this. I'll just start with this sort of input activity. Here we have El Corte Inglés, of course, just a, basic department store, and anything with nouns you could use this for, but I might introduce clothing this way, just as an introductory activity. And, they get to see the words, and they get to say, which one do you like? Which one don't you like, etc. And to do this at sort of a higher level, I would give them some websites from different countries that speak the same target language, just to do some comparing and contrasting, or maybe assign different groups, different stores from different countries, and everybody has to kind of find 3 or 4 things, and they have to share them with the class. So they all have some really interesting cultural insight, but this works really well. I just put it up on my screen or my digital whiteboard, and I ask and answer questions. And then later they can actually go shopping. So I make them a little list, and they have to actually follow the list. So I might say, for an intermediate student, I might say, here are some things that are coming up in my life, and I might give the list, quote unquote, of the things that I need for them to get. And they actually have to go to these target language stores and, get them. Not really, of course, but for example, I'm going to go on a ski trip. I'm going to then go to my niece's wedding, for example. Some different things that they have to go shopping for, and they have to go find things that are appropriate for you. So body parts. Usually, these are sort of introduced in the novice level, and they're usually introduced in the context of something else. So, for example, talking about appearance, or perhaps talking about health, or talking about daily routines, or talking about classrooms, right? Raise your hand, for example. So they've usually, through some really basic communicative functions, have seen and heard some body part language. But if you're tired one day, there's some really fun activities that you can do with just kind of pulling that knowledge together and doing a review. For the novice level, for the A level, I would just take some Postits, get some Postits. And I'm obsessed with Postits, by the way. Teachers, I think we love notebooks and pens and office stuff, etc. I certainly do, but a lot of different colored Postits. And so as you review that vocabulary, maybe you're writing it on the board, you're saying the word, and they're writing it on a Post-it note, and then they just put them on their desk as you kind of go through, right? You're reviewing all those body parts that they heard and they learned through those different communicative functions that you did, and then maybe adding a few more, because there'll be some that they don't know, and there'll be some, of course, that have forgotten some, etc. And so after you've gone through all the ones that you want to do, they'll have a whole bunch of Post-it notes on their desk, and then you say the words and they put the Post-its all over them. And then, so they're listening, right? So they've listened a couple of times, right? They've done TPR, they've actually put the body parts on, and of course they'll fall off, and there'll be a lot of laughter. It'll be really fun. And then put them with, whoever sits close to them, and they have to say to each other while they take the body part Post-its off, and they put them all over the desk. And then what they can do is they can take another Post-it or a piece of paper. So they've interacted with this vocabulary a lot. And then they they do kind of a draw what I say activity. So they might think of an alien. You'll have to model this for them, but someone describes an alien or something kind of really off, really out there. So for example, something that's not natural, but it's really silly. They'll kind of draw a person putting together based on what they say. So, they'll come up with all kinds of interesting things, and then they draw, and then they compare what they drew compared to what they said. They try to see that it's accurate. Then normally what we do is we put them, I like doing this with Post-its, and preferably big Post-its, but then you put them all up and then you have kind of a gallery, and then we all give them target language names. So it's really, really, really fun way to, it's all you need is to know some body parts, want to teach the body parts in the target language, and some Post-it notes, and you've got a lesson there. Now, here's the part if you're tired, because I know you're probably thinking, like, I think she said that if I was tired, then that's probably the last thing that you want to do is beyond like that. You can just do, your review of your body parts. Maybe you're kind of brainstorming with the students. They're writing everything on the board. Maybe you've got it on a list already. And then one thing that I really like to do is combine this with something else. So this makes for a great review day when maybe, you're low on energy because, we can't be on all the time. And you're going to combine that body part vocabulary with another set of vocabulary. So in this case, you'll see that I did food. So I might want to review body parts and review food. So then what I would do is I would have them make a person out of what the other vocabulary parts are. And then they would have to label all of those body parts and all of those foods and make a key. And then they could write about that person. So, they might talk about what their names were or where they live, et cetera, et cetera. And you can do this with any vocabulary. It can be body parts and school, right? So, you're looking at this person, and, the body parts made out of different fruits and vegetables and foods, but it could really be anything, clothing, anything you want. And I find, they're so creative. I'm not great at drawing, but I do a lot of drawing activities in my class because I think it's a really great way to interact with vocabulary, and it's fun, and it helps them remember a lot of words. So you can make this very simple. For an A level, they would just do something like this, and they might write a few words about them. In the B level, they can get pretty extended into their stories. And normally I prepare a bunch of questions for them that are things that I want to review. So in the intermediate level, so, basic biographical information, and then add on to that, maybe some past tense, maybe some future tense, whatever it is that I'm doing, I would add on to that. Hearts. So I think this is a really simple tool that not just saved for Valentine's Day, but I'll start with how I use these for Valentine's Day. Just cut out little hearts with little target language sayings. I actually have them that somebody else made, the target language sayings, and then, I keep them up during Valentine's Day season, and then I let them take them down and they write each other notes. So it's fun activity for them to, practice some writing, but you don't really need, something that's really high prep at all. There's some different ways that you can use these simple hearts. I might even just, make a little outline and photocopy it, or have the kids just make a heart out of fold it in half and have a piece of paper. And then a really simple activity is just things I love. So in your target language, maybe you have on the board, things I love, whatever that is in your target language, and everybody has to write something. And then they stick them all over the board. And it's a really great exercise in gratitude, as well as it's just fun. And it's fun to see them every day. They read each other's hearts. Another activity here that I really like to do is for something that's a little bit more advanced. So, of course, students learning Spanish, the subjunctive can be a real challenge for them. And so I might have them take the name of another student, and there's, you know, you'll know your people. So, you know, how you organize this, of course, will depend on, you know, how many people you've got, the relationships within that group, et cetera, the dynamics. I might have them pick themselves. I might have them or pick the other people themselves. I might have them take them from a bag, something like that. And they have to write things, a letter to them. You know, I'm so glad that, you know, I'm so glad that you're my friend. I'm happy that you're my friend. I'm grateful that, you know, whatever those little chunks and phrases are, you're going to teach them. And then, you know, you can review your subjunctive verbs. Something that's a little bit less complicated that can be done at many levels is just compliments. So everybody has to pick, you know, everybody writes their name on a heart. You put them all in a bag, everybody selects somebody else's name, and they have to give that person a compliment in the target language. It's really, really, really fun. So this next activity, I've talked about Postits a lot. And as I said, I'm a bit obsessed with Postits, but this is, I think, something that's really, really great to have on hand. And because you can adapt them to anything. So we talked about the body parts and the Post-it notes and how they had that interactive activity where they kept, you know, labeling their body parts. But you can do this with any kind of vocabulary. You can have them label the room, for example, anything that has nouns and that you want the students to remember. So you can also review anything. So if students have, at the end of a chapter, if they've got questions, they can just write their question down and they can put them up on the board and you can go over all of them. Another thing, it's a really fun low prep game, is to have everybody write questions, and everybody has to contribute, you know, 3 or 4 questions, and you organize them up on a board, and you know, you divide everybody up into teams, and you're just interactive. You're taking on the questions, asking them. Somebody if the group has to answer, you get a point. Another way that I really like to use these is to build stories with these. And this is really fun if you're teaching the intermediate level or the advanced level. So you can hand out different colors depending on what parts of a story you want. So the beginning could be blue and the middle could be white. It really doesn't matter. You would decide that. And you would give a group the different colors. Each group gets the different colors. And everybody writes the beginning of a story, maybe 4 details, maybe the end. And then you take them all and you, again, put them based on their colors up on the board, and you mix and match these stories. It's really quite fun. Another way to do this is for deep reading comprehension. So students would be reading something. This is really for intermediate level, something that they might not understand, something that would be difficult without them diving really deep into it, into the vocabulary. And you would kind of give them a list of vocabulary of words that you didn't know, that they wouldn't know, that words that they would struggle with. And they have to read the selection. They have to draw out what happened, and it doesn't have to be on a storyboard. It can be just one sort of picture that represents what happened. And they can take these Post-its and label those words, or they can, and as they're, you know, as it serves as a great speaking and visual prompt, or they can take those same words and, you know, illustrate them. So it's interactive, or they can take them and go on other parts of the story if you want to divide the story up. So there's lots of ways that you can use this. So this activity is called My Fridge. And I think that it's really fun if you have a, you know, if you've got kids that are kind of obsessed with their phones, this is a fun activity. They can just really record and tell you about what's in their fridge, and then everybody shares. But I think some fun other alternatives to doing this is just, you know, kids that are sort of arty can take a picture, and or draw a picture rather, or they can take a Google slide. But the whole idea is that it's a stimulus, and if it gets them talking, then that's great. You can also do this with any set of vocabulary that you're doing. I tend to, when I do this activity, I tend to show them a refrigerator in the target language, or I just do mine and I just take my phone and I give them a little tour of my fridge, and then that's how that starts. And then they do something similar. And again, they can just make it up if they don't want to actually show you what's in their fridge. They can go on a Google slide and just Google and put an image of, or something that's in their target language refrigerator, and then talk about it. The whole point is the speaking. But you can do your closet, you can do your house. It's just fun, and it's great to have a little gallery. I like to do these in Flipgrid. Everybody can share and everybody can see, and everybody comments on what's in other people's fridges. This is a great resource. It's called Lyrics Training. I have a lot to say about music and songs and learning languages, but at the end of the day, it's a great way to, they're not great for communication necessarily, but I think that music is really valuable for, culture, and you can teach a lot of interesting grammar points. So basically, they are, see this website, I think they take YouTube videos. It's called Lyrics Training. You do need to sign up for it, but it's a great way to get some interactive activity in there with music, and there's tons of languages. I also highly recommend investing in anything with sort of buzzers, anything that's interactive and that you can press. So this, again, just a little electronic device. You can divide them up into teams. You get to use lots of target language here with these different colors, and it will just jazz up any textbook exercise or anything that might otherwise not be so much fun. Again, dice, same type of activity. Maybe you do conjugating verbs with dice, and they have great, now I believe it's called dice.com. You can do that online. You can do lots of number practice, shake the dice and say whatever the target language number is. This is really great for beginners. For more advanced, say a certain number of things based on what you rolled. I've got this bingo here. This is just a simple bingo game that I made, a Google slide bingo game. But with any grammar and vocabulary that you have, I want to share with you just a no prep bingo version that I got from someone called Martina Bex. She's absolutely brilliant, comprehensible classroom. And it's so simple, and I'm a little angry at myself for not thinking of it already, but basically you just take out a piece of paper and make a 9 grid, or if you want to do something bigger, you can do it. And whatever grammar and vocabulary you're doing, right, they fill it in and you've got instant bingo. It's fantastic. I think I could give a whole talk on how useful these are. Of course, index cards, people tend to make flashcards with these. There's tons and tons and tons of uses, but I want to share just a couple that I like to do with these. One of them is, after they've made flashcards, you can put a pair of students together, because now you've got pairs, and you shuffle them up and they can play Go Fish, or they can play a game called, how do you say it? And you're basically looking for pairs. But I think a really fun low prep game is, you take a set of flashcards. Somebody made a set of flashcards and they're just going to give that to you. And however you geographically have your students divided up will be team. So if you've got 5 or 10 minutes left in class, that's fine. And you'll decide however many you're going to ask before a group gets a point. So whatever the flashcard is, let's say my students are at tables. I've got team 1, team 2, team 3, etc. And I might say, okay, whatever it is, and they give the answer, they get a point. And you just go around. It's just an instant game with flashcards. It's great. Hangman, of course, is brilliant because, again, you've got your list of words. There's only so many spaces. It's a great way to review vocabulary. And Pictionary, or Draw What I Say. Again, whatever, you've got this list of vocabulary. It's great interactive practice. You can say them to the students and they draw. I have small boards, and I have them take turns being the caller. And it's interactive, it's fun, and it's a fun way to study vocabulary. One thing I really like to do is just say game night, especially when we're doing something that's kind of difficult. And I'm going to curate these activities and just play. You know, it works great with verbs and vocabulary. Maybe in an hour-long class period, you might play 3 or 4 games. But if you're really tired and you really want, they're no prep, right? So you're going to just say, okay, we're going to play bingo, then we're going to play Quizlet, then we're going to play, you know, Post-it note questions, whatever it is. But another variation on this activity is just centers. So basically, you set this up before class and you set up your different areas. So maybe one area is bingo and another area is hangman and another area is, you know, buzzers with the textbook. Another area is go fish, whatever it is, and they rotate through. So it's super low prep and it's great study review. I think this is one of the last activities we'll talk about. Then I'm going to take some questions. Basically, I just like to call this coffee talk, and it's basically just sitting around and talking, and that's really what we want our students to do. And many years ago, one of my uncles lived in South America for many years, and he taught, and then he practiced law both in Spanish and in English. And he's an absolutely amazing man. He got 2 degrees from Harvard, and he has no airs about it. So I tend to go to him for a lot of things. Hey, what do you think about? And he said, you know what? It doesn't matter if you go to Harvard. None of this matters. What really matters is sitting down around a group of people and talking to them. That's how you learn a language. So really, this is any activity that supports that. So bringing in target language food and sharing, any guest speakers, anytime that they get a chance to sit around and talk. For our novice and our A-level students, they're going to have to, you're going to have to give them some support. Maybe you give them some questions and answers. Maybe you give them some time to support. But really, it's about lowering the anxiety so that everyone is getting practice and doing it on a fairly regular basis. Alliteration, this is a fun one. This works well when you're working on, adjectives. So whatever your name is, and then you get an adjective that goes with it. And of course you use your target language. You make sure that that's, grammatically correct. And then you say it. So, many people call me Nina. I might say, nice Nina, if this were English class, for example. And then the next person would have to say theirs, and then they would have to say mine. So they'd have to repeat mine and then theirs. And then you keep building on like a chain. And obviously it gets more difficult the more that you have, but it's lots of laughter, lots of fun. It's low prep, and they'll learn a lot of vocabulary. The last activity I want to talk about is something called nature walk. And what I like to do with this, there are lots of variations on this, but I'm going to talk about this for a sort of beginning level class. This works really well when the weather's nice, obviously. I would write the target language. I would write a bunch of vocabulary that I want them to know, that I know that they'll encounter in the target language. And I tell them, I'm not going to help you with this. And, you might give them all clipboards or something that they can write on, and they can work together. And you go out for a walk, and they have to try to identify, working together, between what they know, what their group knows, what meanings that they can negotiate. And they draw a little, like kind of doodle a little picture or make notes about what they found. Then after we've gone on the walk, they all sit down and they sort of brainstorm together and get any missing words, any words they might have missed, so that they've all got now a whole list of vocabulary. Then they draw their own nature scene. It's really fun. Works great on a sunny day, particularly in the spring towards the end of the year, gets them outside. So sometimes, I might change this. I've had textbook programs that have this at a part of the year where the weather wasn't so great, and I would just switch it and do it then. Let's see. So some ways to connect with me. I'm on Instagram, and I share a lot on Pinterest. And this last one, I'm just going to leave up just for a second. You might want to just take a picture of this. I have a whole other set of low and no prep fun activities. I have an ebook, it's free, and it's linked in my Instagram Smart Bio. And it's got 25 activities, and I go into a little bit more depth, or quite a bit more depth actually, on how these different activities look at the A, B, and C level. So now I will take questions. I'm afraid I just have a couple of minutes, and let's see, where is my mouse? Okay. There we go. All right. So questions. Okay. So Izzy. Okay, so one-to-one activities. So I think Quizlet definitely can be done one-to-one, but you have to adapt all of these, because students can play as individuals, so they can sort of play. A lot of the sort of the drawing activities, the projects, a lot of those would be done, if they could do it on their own, and you'd be there to support. Online activities. So yeah, so Quizlet Live works really well online. Kahoot works really well online. Bingo works online. They can actually do that 9-grid bingo that we talked about, and you do it out of whatever you're teaching out of. I don't know if it's Google Meet or if it's, Zoom, whatever that looks like. You can do lots of games that involve online. You can do, anything in the chat box, right? So they have to, you say something and then they answer in the chat box. So that's a really fun game. So you can do bingo, you can do anything with your chat box. You can also do all of those drawing activities where we talked about, like Pictionary, draw what I say. All you have to do is they get a piece of paper at home and they just have to put it up to the camera. Okay. So I want to thank you all so much. Hopefully I've answered your questions, and okay. Thank you so much. And it was fantastic to connect with all of you. I love language teachers. I think we have an absolutely amazing community, and I'm so proud to be a part of this. Thank you so very much. Okay. Oh, we have another question. I'm sorry. I think we have another question. Okay. Bye. Thanks so much. Oh, I'm sorry. Raise hand. Tim. I'm afraid I don't quite know how raised hand works necessarily. Okay. Okay. I think I got it. Tim, please just, if you could DM me if you've got a question, I'd be happy to answer. I'm so sorry that I think I missed it here. Okay. Bye.